born on a mountain top of Tennessee, the greenest state in the land of the free. Raised in the woods so he knew every tree. He killed him a bear when he was only 3. Davy Crockett, the king of the wild frontier. Well, I wasn't born in Tennessee. I was born in Los Angeles, California, back in 1948. I distinctly remember in 1955 being bit by a bug, the Davy Crockett bug. I bet your mom and dad were also bit by the same bug. I was 7 years old at the time, and I could remember wanting to grow up and to be a frontiersman just like Davy Crockett. If you too are like most of the children I know, you're probably much the same. Boys and girls today like to camp and be outdoors, to hike and explore. 200 years ago, George Washington had the same chance. He was invited to go on a land surveying party, and the natural spirit of adventure rose up in him. His mother gave him permission, and off he went. This was the first time he'd been away from home for so long a time, and it was dangerous, too. There were hostile Indians in those days, wild critters like grizzly bears, cottonmouth, poisonous snakes, rattlesnakes, and such. While camping one night under God's starlit sky, he could hear the sound of wolves and coyotes in the background. He was glad that he had a fire going. He worked very hard and gained favor with all who hired him. He saved his money, and he earned enough to buy some land. So by 1755, at the age of 21 years, he gained respect in his own state of Virginia. He was known as a landowner, a skilled surveyor, an explorer. He was an upright young man. Because of these qualities, he was made a lieutenant colonel of a small force of the Virginia's 150 soldiers. They asked him if he would fight with British General Edward Braddock against the French and the Indians. Since Washington knew the territory of Pennsylvania, he was made scout and was given command of the 150 soldiers to fight with the general. They were to take Fort Duquesne on the Monongahela River. Washington tried to warn General Braddock, and he said to the general, "General, sir, it would do us no good to march into battle. You're too exposed. Your 1,400 soldiers are dressed in red, and you can't just go marching out into battle this way. We're fighting with the French and the Indian, and they hide. They'll ambush us. They'll see us and spot us a mile away in those bright red colors." I figured that we better approach. You figured? Since when do you give superior commanding officer ideas? Look, my young Lieutenant Washington, you do as I command, and all will be well with you. You understand? Yes, sir. Since General Braddock didn't heed Washington's advice, it cost him his life. And not only his life, but nearly all the 1,400 soldiers that went with him. 10 miles from the fort, while playing their drums and fifes like in some parade, they were ambushed just like Washington had figured. The soldiers didn't have a fighting chance. General Braddock was shot, and now Washington was in command. He mounted a horse, and he rallied the running and confused soldiers, and he gave them the orders. "Take cover, men, and fight! Advance as you go! Do not retreat! Quickly! Reload! Fire! Watch that flank over there! Quickly!" While riding back and forth behind his men on his horse was shot and fell to the ground. His men started to run, but he jumped up on another horse, and he called out, "Steady, man! Take a hold of yourselves! Fight like men! Do not retreat! Quickly! Charge!" Once again, his second horse was shot down. This time, with so many bullets, thick as flies, around him, he decided to do his commanding from the ground. As he and his men were advancing, Washington was shot 4 times. He was forced to retreat with what few soldiers remained. When they were a safe distance away, Washington noticed that his coat had 4 bullet holes in it, but none had passed through into his body. The soldiers knew, as well as he himself, that God had spared his life for a future purpose. What it was, he didn't quite know yet. Psalm 32 verses 10 and 11 say, The wicked will have to suffer, but those who trust in the Lord are protected by His constant love. You that are righteous, be glad and rejoice, because what the Lord has done. You that obey Him, shout for joy. After that story and Bible verse, about all you and I should do is shout for joy and say, "Praise the Lord."